Yeah, I mean that is the problem. I mean, we won't go slagging off this country, call them all wankers, but I
No,
mean
no, no,
they
no.
are, they are, aren't they? In essence,
No, please,
It's-
if you want to sort of touch upon
yeah,
how,
we will do.
how hard it is or whatever,
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
yeah, yeah, we definitely will. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Chris, are you ready? Hold on, blimey, just give us a what's it count date. Right, 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to BB Interviews with me, the Gabby Cabby, on SRB Radio in association with Griffiths Clothing. Joining me today, all the way from South London, on drums, Stevie White, y'all.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Great to be chatting on this lovely day.
Whitey, how you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, all ready for Halloween down in South London with the kids. It's all good.
I use that line because that's how Paul introduced you to the crowd when you done your drum solo of In the Crowd. I think it was 2005 at Ali Pali, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think he said all the way from South London, and there we were over in North London, Bandit Country, But yeah, it was good memories. Lovely gig, that massive sold out Ali Pali. That I remember that well, actually.
Well, we're going to talk about a little bit of your time with Paul Weller and the Style Council.
Obviously, yeah.
Your songwriting on our favourite shop as well, with Everything to Lose. And
Absolutely.
also your new guys as the Family Silver, because I'm absolutely loving your new EP, and I
Brilliant.
loved your first EP that was out 2 years ago. But firstly, if you didn't see that Boys Brigade band, do you still think you would have been a drummer, Steve?
I think I would have found another way to come to it. I think it was like a little fire that was waiting to be ignited, because I'd already had a taste of a drum, because my uncle had a snare drum that I'd managed to become a little bit obsessed with, and I used to hit it sort of any opportunity that I had when I went to his house, and so I'd kind of already a little bit got the bug, but when I saw the Boys Brigade thing, it sort of made complete sense to me that, that's what I want to do. And I was able to then go and actually join the Boys Brigade and get into the band and start learning about rudiments and mummy daddies and learning the roles and everything like that. So it was a brilliant starter, but I think I would have probably found my way into it anyway.
Because your brother is also a very, very talented drummer. Did you have drum offs in your bedroom? How did that work between you and your kid?
Well, Alan's 7 years younger. So what actually happened is that I was able to sort of get my own place when I was around sort of 19, 20, which not many 19, 20-year-olds can do nowadays. But I was able to get my own place and move out of my mum's house. And then when I moved out, I left this like little drum shed that my dad had built in the loft. And so Alan, who was probably 13 or 14 at the time, he crept into it because it was now vacant. And so we never really kind of did that sort of thing of drum offs, and because he kind of got into it at slightly a later age than I did, and obviously when I left to go and live in my own place, Alan was able to sort of take what was left over, and there was like a Pearl kit that was sort of in the loft where I used to practice on it, and I think that became one of the first kits that he used when he joined Oasis for a little while. So that was all. That was how it worked. So I kind of moved on and moved out, and he took over the mantle and sort of just kept sort of practicing where I practiced. And then I got him some lessons when he was about 14, 15, and he was doing really well. I mean, even before he joined Oasis, when he was I think 19 or something, he'd played for Dr. Robert. He played on Dr. Robert's solo album, State of Grace, which is a really lovely album, and he'd done some depping for me, playing for Galliano and bits and bobs. So it was, he'd kind of had a little career going before he got the job with Oasis.
Now, when you actually got into the drumming and you wanted to take it to the next level, did you have tuitions? And if so, who was it with? And who was your biggest influences and inspirations, Steve?
Well, I had when I went to my secondary school, the first thing I did was to see if they did drum lessons, and they did, and I signed up for the drum lessons, and I had a wonderful gentleman called George Scott, who, bearing in mind when I was 11, he was coming up for 80, and he still played great, and he was a really lovely, kind man that kind of introduced me into Gene Krupa and said, you should check out Gene Krupa. And as it happened, my dad at the time had a little one of his little oppos. He was a builder, and his little apprentice was a guy called Gary, who was also a drummer, and he lent me a couple of albums by Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson. So through George Scott and then through a guy called Gary Buckner, I got introduced to Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson at the age of 11, and that was kind of where my interest really sort of started to sort of come together. And then after George left, he retired, and then there wasn't very many kind of good teachers around, and I went and studied with a guy called Bobby Orr, who was again originally a pipe band drummer, but also a very, very well-known jazz drummer in London. And I used to travel, get on the train when I was about 12 and go, I don't know if you could do that anymore, but just to get on the train and go over to the other side of London and go and have my lessons with Bobby. And then, I just used to kind of, try and get information where I could. And I went to this music school in London with Gary Wallace, who's another drummer who played percussion with the Style Council. And we went to this music school, which we were a bit like fish out of water because it was all really posh kids on violins. But we managed to kind of get what we could out of it, and we became really good friends. And Gary was around when I first got the job with Paul, and Gary was playing drums for a band called The Truth at the time. So there was that kind of connection, and he got me into one of his mates' bands, a kind of an early mod revival band called Flat 19, and we managed to support The Truth playing at the Marquee. So I'd kind of got to play at the Marquee when I was 16, really. So, definitely an early starter with everything like that.
And then you got in 1985, you got to play at Wembley at Live Aid, didn't you? But you auditioned to get into the Style Council. Did you know it was for Paul Weller's band, Style Council, or just a normal audition?
I just thought it was a normal audition. I mean, and I was doing loads of them. At that time, I was trying to get my name out there and just doing any sort of audition that I could. And it was only through rehearsing and auditioning for another band that was signed to Polydor, who went back into, and to the A&R guy, Dennis Monday, and said, look, and he said, oh, have you had any trouble, any luck finding a drummer? And I said, no, it's been proving a bit sort of troublesome, but. And he sort of just said, well, I've got to go looking for a drummer. And they were like, oh, really? And he went, yeah, like, where'd you find a sort of a young jazz drummer in London? And they just said to him, well, actually, the kid that we saw today wasn't right for us, but he was quite jazzy. So then Dennis got my number off of the guys. Dennis phoned up my mum's house and then basically said, oh, White, where'd you live? Oh, South London. Your uncle wasn't a DJ, was he? And I said, yeah, he was. And he knew my uncle because he used to go to shows where my uncle was DJing. So the connection was made. And that's when Dennis said, look, there's a band, I can't say too much, but come up to Nomi's. He gave me the address. And then when I got up to Nomi's, they were rehearsing already, and they kind of had a drummer lined up because they were doing this like Brockwell Park show. But when I saw Mick Talbot's Hammond, I clicked that it was the Style Council, and I'd already met Mick before when he was playing with the Bureau at the Albany Empire, so I kind of knew who Mick was. And then I kind of worked out that it was the Style Council, and thought I've got to give this a good shot here, really, because this could be some good work here. And then when I spoke to Paul, he said, oh, we've got a drummer for this weekend, and I was like, can I just have a go? Can I have a go? Go on, I've come a long way. And I got on and had a play, and he said, oh, well, okay, can't use you this weekend, but we're doing this radio show tomorrow. I didn't think we were going to use a drummer, but you want to come and do it? And that was the Kid Jensen show on BBC Radio 1 at tea time, which I think that performance is still on YouTube. You can check it out, and that was the first time that we ever played Paris Match, and I was literally learning Paris Match as we were kind of sound checking to go on air and I think, you know, it's really interesting listening back to that very first performance, the very first day that I worked with Paul and Mick, and it still sounds pretty good, you know, even after all this time. And you know, all that kind of lack of experience and lack of knowing each other, I think there was still quite a spark there when we played it for the first time.
How difficult was it to play the Paris match? Because there's a couple of versions, isn't there? There's the more jazzy version and the more upbeat version.
Well, what I call the sort of more European version, the kind of got the straighter feel. I never really. I always thought that Paul's version was the definitive version of that song, and I didn't really like the sort of torchy sort of talk song version of it as much as I liked Paul's version, because I just felt that it was just such a brilliant, very heartfelt love song, and I think it was very much of the time. I mean, I don't know the personal details, but clearly it was about someone in you know, that Paul had something going on with, and it just was a really heartfelt love song. And I remember sort of years later saying to Paul, like, you know, why can't we put that one in the set? And, you know, and I remember him saying, I don't even remember the chords. and it was just, you know, there was a lot of that at the time, just kind of very emotional, very sort of reactionary, just like, you know, and it was just interesting that it wasn't a song that particularly, I think Paul has got a major affinity to, like some of the Style Council or jam songs, but for me it was a really, really special song, and I think it's a beautiful song, and I think it's one of the best sort of love and lament kind of songs that's ever been written. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
No argument there, Steve. I think everything that he's wrote was absolutely fantastic in all guises. But the one that you did write for our favourite shop, 1985 was that? Was it the same year as Live Aid?
Yeah, it was all kind of at the same time. There was, I mean, I've just done this. I've just done a recording for the BBC about Top of the Pops in 1985, and you know, when I suppose the Style Council were kind of at their zenith, and Walls Come Tumbling Down had been released, and we'd just had Shut the Top Out, and we'd had You're the Best Thing, and I mean, it was an incredible run of singles, really. You know, culminating in Shut, Walls Come Tumbling Down, which came out in '85, the same time that we did Live Aid. It was an incredible year. I mean, we were a million-selling band doing kind of largely socialist lyrics. It was quite, you know, I don't think it happened now, but I think people now, when they talk about 100,000 as being an amazing achievement in terms of sales, sort of forget what bands were actually selling in terms of numbers back then, and yeah, it was amazing. So we were really, you know, we were kind of up there as a band in terms of the same level as bands like Wham and Spandau Ballet and Duran Duran. We were up there. Obviously, we have different fans. You know, we had a different kind of selection of fans. But I mean, people do forget, you know, that you know, obviously, we all know how big the Jam were, but people do forget how big the Style Council actually were, and not just in this country, but in Europe. I mean, Europe too. I mean, you know, we managed to do 5 nights at Wembley Arena, which is no mean feat from anyone. You know, knocking Dire Straits off of number one with you know, Money for Nothing, knocking that off of number one was quite amazing, and all of it was done with a very sort of uncompromised British socialist, from a socialist kind of, you know, socialist sort of viewpoint. Songs like Homebreakers and Walls and Everything to Lose and, you know, All Gone Away and Stone's Throw. They're amazing songs. It's a you know, I do not understand how people can not listen to that album and not at least appreciate the work that went into it and the skill of the songwriting and dismiss it. I just don't get it.
I think what happened is there were so many Jam fans that there are still Jam fans today and didn't like the Style Council and almost didn't forgive Paul for splitting up the Jam. I mean, I've loved all his guises, and I just look at the Style Council, one of the most important bands ever in British music. And I looked at his songwriting with the Jam, and then with the Style Council, Paul was almost taking the piss in a really, really kind of humorous way way and manner. And I'm sure that when he gave you the songs, you must have looked at it and thought, geez, he's at it again. But this is such a funny way that he's doing it. And the videos as well. The lodgers. I mean, she's only a shopkeeper's daughter.
Yeah.
You know, these were hard hitting political statements that Style Council was doing it in a funny way. Nobody else was doing it that way.
And I think what's sort of very easy is, I mean, we're kind of, hindsight. We're all kind of that much older now, and sometimes you sort of read, these sweeping statements on social media of criticism about work that Style Council did or what other people have done, and you forget what it's okay sort of being able to analyse what at 50 years of age and kind of put out these big sweeping statements, but what people sort of don't allow for is the fact that even Paul himself was 25, and 24, 25 when he did that. I mean, that's youth to us now, isn't it? That you're mere youth, and the fact that he'd already had the jam under his belt, and it's incredible. It's an incredible achievement, and I think people need to put that into perspective a little bit, and just when they come up with their such knowledgeable criticisms about things, it's like it just winds me up a little bit sometimes. It's like, just put it into perspective. It's so easy to get on and have a go at stuff and not really sort of look at the backstory and appreciate just what people were trying to do and where they'd come from to get to that point to do it. It's, I think, as Kenneth Williams said, it's a bit like critics are like eunuchs. They watch it every night, but they never do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely agree with that. I've got a couple of questions one from Frank Gradishaw of Thrift Store Halo, a band I'm absolutely loving from Chicago. When you were in the Style Council, what influence did you have with your drumming patterns in the music?
I think quite a lot, because as with any time that you're working with a songwriter, what your role is to try to sort of make the song sound as good for them as it possibly can. But I think that one of the things that overtly Paul and Mick wanted was a drummer that wasn't really a sort of a rock drummer, and Rick was a fantastic he's a fantastic drummer. He's a great rock drummer. And, I think with Paul, when we were playing songs, he was really interested in things like The Whole Point of No Return and some of the, Piccadilly Trail and things like that. I think he wanted more of the Latin and the jazz and the other influences that I had, because obviously if he didn't, if he'd have wanted a more straight ahead rock drummer, he would have stuck with Rick. He wouldn't have changed, and that's just how it is. So he, a lot of the time, I think he kind of said to me, try something different, just try something different, and because I'd had these lessons with playing in sort of Brazilian drumming and bossa nova and mambo and Latin, I was able to kind of say, well, look, this might kind of work, should we try this? And he liked it, that was it. I mean, it was a sort of a definite attempt to do something different, and that's that was why I was able to do that. But obviously, if he didn't like it, or if Mick didn't like what I was playing, they'd say so. But it was always really, really open. It was always, sometimes. Even when working on Paul's solo records, he would say, look, I've got a really strong idea about what I want on this, tunes like Wildwood, I just want you to do this. And that was like, brilliant. It was great. That sound, yeah, you're right, mate, that's fine. And then there were other songs where it would be like, can I just try this? And he'd never not say no. He would always say, well, yeah, give it a go. And if it works, it works. If it don't work, we'll keep going. So it was never a difficult process, recording and coming up with and being allowed to put suggestions forward. That I never found that a problem at all.
Now, back to the Style Council, just briefly before we move on to the Family Silver, there was a record. Have you ever had it? Blue. But you took that music and put your lyrics to it, and that was the song With Everything to Lose that come out on our favourite Shop album. Yeah. That actually fits better on that album than the original. What happened? What was the dynamics about that?
It was a strange situation, because we were doing Ever Had It Blue had been earmarked obviously for for absolute beginners. And at one point, I think we weren't sure whether it was actually going to happen, or whether whether we were going to be part of the film, or whether the soundtrack was going to work. And I thought, I think Paul had the song, and I think he just sort of thought, I hope this doesn't not get used. I hope it sees the light of day. But Ever Had It Blue had sort of been earmarked for absolute beginners, and we were just kind of looking to sort of make sure that if it didn't happen with absolute beginners, we could still do a version of the song. But one thing that Paul said is like, well, let's sort of maybe we'll change the lyrics. And what happened was that we went on this meeting for this Youth Trade Unions Right campaign event, and it was all about the YTS and the youth opportunity schemes, and how crappily young people were being treated, and how many had actually died on the scheme, and kids that were getting almost like Victorian labour, cheap Victorian labour. And I was so pissed off about that I literally went home and just wrote this kind of set of lyrics and just took them into the studio and just said, look, what do you think of these? And Paul was like, God, they're really good. Let's try them, and that's how it kind of came about. And I think that things probably moved again with Absolute Beginners, and Absolute Beginners, got back on track, and that song was then used. So there ended up kind of being two versions of the same song, but with different lyrics, So there was these things just kind of moved in sort of strange ways. The music business, you think that it's going in one direction, and you think that something's happening, and it completely changes in a heartbeat. So, you don't want stuff lying around that you can end up using. And it just ended up that Absolute Beginners came out, and Everything to Lose was written. And Paul, I think, thought that they were both good. So, they both came out, basically.
Both excellent tracks.
Yeah.
What other songs did you write, Steve? And also drum solos. What was your favourite drum solo? In the Crowd, definitely, and Sticks. I mean, it's all like it was. As soon as Paul either got on the guitar or the piano, it's like Whitey's drum solo and Weller's Fag Break.
I think. Well, I don't know if I don't know if Paul still smokes. Actually, I hope he doesn't. Actually, but that it was always a bit of a fag break in the in the live sets, and I mean, I used to enjoy doing it, and it was great to have a kind of being in a band that had that kind of profile and being able to do drum solos. I mean, I used to love when we used to do Dropping Bombs when we were back in the sort of council days, and to get, because that was kind of more of an overt sort of jazz type solo, and I used to love the fact that we could do that at places like the Dominion in Tottenham Court Road and Gold Diggers Chippenham, and we had a jazz solo, but it was always kind of like a nice thing to do, and I mean, it's nice to kind of be able to stretch out on the instrument and have a little bash, and I feel really grateful to that. It was good to be able to do it.
And I'm really grateful for you joining me today to talk about your new band as well, The Family Silver, because we're going to get on to the guys now. Three of you, all three were formerly with Paul Weller in his band, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Matt Dayton.
Matt Dayton.
Damon Minchella, also of Ocean Colour Scene, and of course yourself. When did you three come together? How did you come together? And that was on the back of Trio Valori, wasn't it?
It was, yes. We were doing a lot of work with Trio Valori in Italy, and we were going out to Spain, and that was kind of like the sort of lifeblood of that band, really, going out and doing the Hammond-based stuff with Seamus Bean originally. And then we were doing some, we were gigging, I think the last time that we toured in the UK, and we were kind of, we were playing with a guy called Justin Sheehan on organ, and we went down to Aberystwyth in sunny North Wales, and Matt was living up near there, and he said, I'll pop down to see you. And I'd not seen Matt for a long time, because he'd done Oasis, and he'd put a solo. I think I played on the last solo album that he did, which is called The Common Good, which is definitely worth checking out. It's a really good record. and I played on that, and I'd kept in touch with him, but he'd moved out to Wales, and after his kind of Oasis experience, and then he turned up, and I just said, look, just bring your guitar as well, and we'll play on a couple of play on a couple of the instrumentals. And afterwards, we were driving back, and it was, Damon was like, God, he's such a good guitarist, and and then we got a call, and Matt said, look, I've got this little studio over in Wales. Can you, do you fancy coming and writing a few tunes and having a bit of a jam? And we just went down and we did like 4 or 5 songs, which became sort of half of the Family Silver album. Yeah. And it came together so quickly that we just thought, this is a real missed opportunity if we don't get and do this. So we basically went and did a bit of writing, and pretty quickly the whole kind of project came together, and we got some funding for it, and we did a little bit of crowdfunding, and one of my really good friends and his wife, Chris Webster and Caroline Webster, they kind of put some money in to set it up on our own label, and lo and behold, we had an Electric Blend. It came together really, really quickly, and I'm always just so interested in doing new stuff, really, and playing with new artists, and so I've had that, and at the time I'd just done some stuff with LaRue, and then it was the Family Silver, and I've also got like some new recordings with some really great guys from Sheffield, Chris Haig and Joel White, and that we've made some music, and it's really good, and that's what I really like. It's just doing new stuff, and so that kind of fits into the remit of putting rather than keep I love talking about what my achievements, but I love to sort of be able to say, but I've got this coming out, and that's why we did the Trio Valore album, and then the Trio Valore EP, and then the Family Silver album, and it's all very much changed now in terms of the way music is received, and the way how hard it is to get new music heard, and especially when you're known to be playing with Paul Weller or Ocean Colour Scene. A lot of people want to talk about the past all the time, and that's wonderful, but I can't really go out and play Paul Weller tunes because he plays them, so I've got to sort of find a platform that's mine, and I'd just rather it be sort of new material rather than old stuff, really.
I totally agree, and I think it's awful for new artists and fresh artists, because there's loads of great stuff out there that the platforms aren't there like there used to be in the olden days.
No, and this country needs to take a really good, bloody good hard look at itself. We've become incredibly lazy. We've become, in terms of our support of the arts, and we're all sat here, and they're telling us that 80% of the economy in this country is like service-based industries, and then we're duped into making a stupid decision like Brexit. Yeah. And it's just like these small town people that seem to have these voices now, and when they talk about like the arts and entertainment being 8% of the British economy, then we should be supporting this stuff. We should be, I find it really upsetting when I sort of speak to young bands and they say, oh, we managed to get a few gigs in Belgium and Holland and Germany, and God, don't they treat you better over there? And you're going, what? It's a joke. It's a joke, and if bands can't even sort of make enough money to pay for the fuel in their trucks, then there's no point moaning because they don't come to Cardiff or Brighton. They can't, and venues don't want to take a chance on new bands. They just rather the, fucking tribute bands, like, sorry for swearing.
It's all right, Steve, you crack on.
Tribute bands, and it's like, I'm not knocking people that want to go out and play Beatles tunes or Oasis tunes, but like, come on, it's like we're the country that wrote the book on rock music, and we don't, people will go out and they'll go to the Weatherspoons and drink 6 pints, and then somebody wants them to pay £5 to see a new band, and they won't do it. It's just beyond me. We just need to take a really good hard look at ourselves and appreciate what we're really good at and get back and support it.
Totally agree. It balls my piss, Steve, all day long.
We do. Crazy.
Yeah, we do what we do, and we have that platform. And then when we do that, you get little in the way of support, and you do. I mean, I almost feel like packing it in daily, but I love it so much.
Well,
but it just annoys me.
That's what you have to sort of say, you know, if you want to get involved in music nowadays, you have to appreciate and you have to kind of say, well, you know, you're doing it for love. But, you know, make no bones about it that, you know, that all this streaming and, I mean, we've not got our new Family Silver EP on Spotify because, you know, I think Spotify is a really good idea. But just pay the artists some decent money. You know, it's not hard. Just up the royalty rates a bit. You know, the major record labels own it anyway. That, you know, if you know, if you say to your window cleaner when they come round and do a lovely job cleaning your windows, I'll give you a few likes on Facebook. Is that okay? Yeah. For one, they might punch you in the face, but certainly they ain't going to come back and clean your windows. Why is it with music that we think it's all right to expect music for nothing? I just don't get it. It just does not, you know, there's got to be some reward for your endeavours. It's not, you know, all about money. We do it because we love it. But if bands, and I see it, if bands that are signed to major labels are splitting up literally because they can't find enough financial support or sustenance to get them from gig to gig, then, you know, we should be really concerned about that. You know, do we not want new bands coming through? Have we had enough? Do we not want to see where the rock or grime or jazz, do we not want to see where young people are going to take this music? Should we just watch cover versions and sort of X Factor and reality shows? Is that what we really want? Maybe we do. I don't know. You know, maybe that's what the majority want in this country. I certainly don't.
I think you're right. I think certainly a lot do, and I certainly don't as well. I get an absolute buzz from hearing a new record, from hearing something drop that I've never heard before, and I'm loving it, and I do it daily, and I seriously get a buzz. I'm loving your new EP because we're going to talk about that, Blaze of Light. But I want to, just before we get on to the new stuff, a newie yesterday from Electric Blend, which was obviously your first album.
Brilliant.
In 2000.
Thank you.
That is an absolute tune, one of the best tunes I've ever heard in my entire life.
Oh, that's lovely to hear that. Fantastic, thank you.
But the whole album's great. I love the silver, the cover. I love the way that you've got the you guys embossed in there. It's just everything about it is just fantastic.
Well, we have to thank our fantastic kind of our patrons, Chris and Caroline, for that, and also with the new EP, you know, Richard Clark from Monks Road Records, because these people are very, you know, they're my friends, but they're also very successful people who feel that they should give something back, and you know, and that is, you know, that's unfortunately or fortunately for us, where we've managed to get some financial support to make a really nice product and record it nicely and mix it properly, because there's no way on earth that, you know, a group of musicians that are at our stage are going to be able to walk into a record label and get a record deal, and it doesn't matter how good it is, but it just doesn't really happen anymore. So we're very grateful to the people that have came out and supported us, and you know, for the fact that people that pledged and sort of put their faith in us, and hopefully we've kind of, you know, lived up to expectations, and that's all we really want to do.
And that's the thing that always makes me laugh, and it shouldn't, because it annoys me. That's a more appropriate term. Annoys me when you say people of our level. I mean, you know, the youngest drummer at Live Aid, one of the greatest drummers that this country has ever seen, not just our generation, but the country's ever seen. Matt Dayton, what a wonderful solo artist in his own right, guitarist. And then, like, Dr. Damon as well, because he's a doctor now, Minchella.
He is a doctor. He's a doctor. Yeah, he's got his degree in Doctor of Philosophy, and he's spent 3 very hard years working on that, which is amazing.
And the music that you're making, labels should be falling over themselves, signing you up, and radio stations playing the damn music. It ain't hard.
The thing is about the mainstream, you know, mainstream in terms of radio. I mean, I can't even. I can name the people that I think actually listen to new music, and you know, people like Janice Long and people like Gary Crowley and Robert Elms, and then Mark Radcliffe, and you know, and then you sort of become a bit hard pressed to kind of actually work out who, if anyone even listens to it. They're all playlists now, and it's just what it is, and you just got to seek out the people that will show you support and show them support back. Really, that's all you can do. There's no point getting kind of bitter about it. It's what it is. It's how it is, and you just got to sort of keep one step ahead of the game and just try and work out, what the easiest way to get your music out there is, basically.
Well, it starts at number 1, A Blaze of Light, and obviously that's the title of the EP.
Yeah.
Small Town Man, wonder who that's
Yeah.
about.
That's about Nigel Farage, actually, and with a little bit of a reference to Boris Johnson. I totally respect it, when they say about a referendum. I don't believe a referendum is an entirely great. I think sometimes it's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and I think if the truth be known, a lot of people voted in the referendum, and voted for out because they were pissed off at Westminster and peed off at their local MP, and had got it in their ears that that immigration is such a sort of a terrible thing, and obviously things need to change. But I think we were and should still be powerful enough to be able to change the EU and change the European community rather than walking away from it. So I think we've made a bit of a funny decision based on people. The fact is that once we made this decision, Farage ran away. Yeah. He's got his lovely job on LBC, copping $100,000 a year, talking crap every night, and he still takes money from the EU, which I find incredible. The guy has no shame, and he's, to me, he's like the sort of personification of the pub bore, the bloke that kind of, you go in and he's the one that sort of, just talks about himself in as the all-knowing sort of, the all-knowing kind of, authority on football and everything, and everybody kind of ends up leaving him because he's slightly pissed and talking crap at the end of the evening. So it's dedicated to Nigel Farage.
If Only for Tomorrow, which is also on our playlist on the Biscuit Boys, SRB Radio. Searching for the Next Night, I think that's an absolute banging tune. It's my favourite on the EP.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and I was really, I wanted to sort of, contradict the fact that it's got like a very sort of strong driving groove with the little breakdown sections. I wanted to sort of put some sort of real, almost sort of Buddy Rich-esque drum fills in there, as a little tribute to the fact that Buddy's 100th anniversary this year, and so I kind of did some very deliberate, quite over-the-top drum fills, and I thought, well, it doesn't matter because only our fans are going to hear it anyway. There's no point trying to sort of second-guess mainstream radio with this, so we might as well just do what we want to do, really.
We have had another question as well from Frank Gradishar of Thrift Store Halo. Have you written a book? If not, why not? And are you going to?
No, I've kind of sort of thought about it, but to be honest, for the amount of effort and time to actually write a book with my sort of life at the moment, with my kids and my family and my online work and my teaching and all the things that I'm doing, just to actually find the time to write a book, I think would be really, I just don't know where I would find the time. For one, I don't think I'm kind of ready to write a book, and I think that to a lot of extent, I think the book that I write would actually be quite boring, really, because I'm only going to talk about music. I'm not going to do any kind of personal stuff. I don't, I think that's my business and my family's business, and so I don't really want to go down that route. But I would love to I'd spoken to Ian Munn about writing a book about the Style Council, and just because it was such a fun time, and that we got up to such a we had a great time doing it. I'd love to sort of maybe put some of those thoughts down, but it's just finding the time to do it and being able to do a really good job at it. But I think maybe it's something for the future. When I'm sort of, I hang the drumsticks up and I might kind of go go back and look through everything and decide to write a bit of a biography, and hope people are still interested enough to go out and read it.
I'm sure there would be, and I would, Steve, because at the end of the day, all I want to know is about the music, and I think that's the thing that we get away from these days.
Yeah.
It's not about the art to a lot of people.
No.
It's all about the salacious happenings, and I couldn't give a shit who sleeps with who and who's doing what. I want to know all about the music, that's the only thing.
And that's such a great story. The music is such a great story, and like I say, I mean, it was lovely sort of recently talking about the the Style Council and the walls come tumbling down, and what the guy that was doing the interview was saying that was such a big record for me, because it was all it was all quite glam at the time, with the Durans and the Spandals and to a certain degree Wham and Frankie, and then there was this sort of band sort of saying, you don't have to take this crap, you don't have to sit back and relax, and I love that. I think it's really good, and I'm very, very proud, and like I say, I'm really lucky, because I know that lots of musicians, when they finish finish a period of time in their musical career, they end up, I don't want to talk about that. I can't talk about that. It was such a, you don't understand what a terrible time I had doing that. And I don't feel that about all the stuff that I've done over the years. I really, really enjoyed everything that I did. And then when I kind of thought, I don't know, I think I might want to try something different, and I've had enough, I'm moved on, and that was it. And so I am proud about it, and I'm not damaged by it, and you sort of see these, hear musicians going, oh, it was so terrible, it was so awful. It's like that, I'm not knocking people that were poorly or have had sort of issues, and they write, and that's their way of doing it. But it was never like that for me. I was very, 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 very lucky. I worked really, really hard, and I had a great time. And that's it.
And I love listening to it. We've got another. Frank Greshar said, "I'll buy the book."
Great.
And all my mates as well over there in America, and James Walsh.
Good morning, America. Yeah. How are you? How are you over? I think Frank's in Chicago. Did you say?
Yeah, it is in Chicago. It was half 10, so it's.
I love Chicago. One of my favourite cities in the world. It is Chicago. Good fond memories of playing at the Vic Theatre there, and then going down to Mass Ave and going to see my friend Steve Maxwell, and spending far too much money on vintage drums.
And you're still doing your drum clinics as well, aren't you? Talking of drums.
Yeah, well, education is very, very kind of prominent. I've got I've just opened, I'm working at a studio down in Kent where I'm teaching, and I teach at Trinity College of Music, and I teach for Goldsmiths, and I really love it. And I've got some amazing students that are doing really, really well. And I get really inspired sort of seeing them and hearing of their achievements, and them, sort of taking up the baton and sort of making a success of the music business. And I really love it. I really enjoy it. It keeps me on my toes, because I've got some fantastic players as students. So I really enjoy that, and it just enables me to kind of to be able to when we're doing things like the Stanley Silver, to not sort of worry too much about the kind of whys and wherefores of it. We can just go and make the music. And so I do really enjoy it. I love the drumming community. I love being part of that. I'm going to Guernsey this weekend to go and do something, and then I was in Wales this weekend, and then next week I'm doing the London Drum Show, and then the Family Silver dates start in November. So I've never been busier, and it's really diverse, and I feel very grateful and still very focused and enjoy it. And when I finish here, I'll be in the drum room, a couple of hours practice, honing the chops for next week.
And James Walsh, author of There's No Drinking After You're Dead, said, I think Steve's underestimating the level of interest that would be in a book about his career, and I totally agree as well.
Oh, well, maybe I'll have a think about it and start writing some stuff down. But the trouble is with me is like my kind of my sort of memory for like specifics. It's like I say. I mean, I make no bones about it. I always, if I'm going to talk about the Style Council, I'll always ask Ian Munn, was that the year that we did that, or was it the 85 or 84? And the fact that he's written such a great book about it, it's been a real help to be able to sort of pinpoint what we were doing at sort of certain times. And I just need to find a bit of a resource about the solo stuff, because people still say to me, about like the first solo album, and then Stanley Road and Wildwood, and to me that kind of period is almost like one record, because it was like essentially 7 years of pretty much touring. You know, we just literally started off at it seemed like in 1989, and you know, before we knew it, it was coming up to 1996, and we'd almost like, you know, we'd made 3 records and probably been to Japan 10 times and America 5 times and Europe countless times and UK tours, and it had just gone from, you know, playing to a few hundred people here, there and everywhere to sort of, you know, playing at Crystal Palace Stadium and 2 nights at Finsbury Park and Battersea Power Station and all these massive gigs. So that was just a real kind of journey. But as I say, it seems like it was one period to me, just like a 7-year tour really, which was quite amazing.
I'll be honest, listening and going to gigs, it was almost like one for me as well, because there was quite a considerable amount of alcohol drunk at your gigs, and the Crystal Palace one in 1997 was fantastic because it was the Heavy Soul time. It was around about that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we had like Skunk and Nancy were on the bill, and I think Republica was on the bill. So I do remember, you know, it was great, and I mean, you know, we had some great lineups, sort of, you know, from Yolanda to, you know, to Damon and Matt and Steve and Ernie, and you know, they were all fantastic players and you know, fantastic songs, and you know, great sets to play, really fantastic sets to play.
So many fantastic memories and so many fantastic songs. Anyone in particular that you loved drumming to more than any of the others, Steve, or, you know?
Well, that is a really tough question, because, you know, I guess from those sort of three solo albums, which we, you know, and then into Heavy Soul, which we drew a lot of, you know, we obviously toured a hell of a lot. I loved like the kind of the balls out ones. I loved like Whirlpool's End and Sunflower, and you know, I loved like Can You Heal Us, Holy Man, and tunes like that. And it was always there were so many good and diverse songs. I mean, I remember I used to love to play Fifth Season, when, you know, from Wildwood, when we used to do that, and Back in the Fire and Has My Fire Really Gone Out, and Shadow of the Sun. I mean, they're all, you know, they're great tunes for drummers to play. They really are.
Yeah, in my kind of like worst hours, the amount of times I used to listen to Fifth Season was like uncountable. That great is song. A tune, an absolute song. Back onto your tour. Time is against us. We're going to wrap it up shortly, but you are on tour from the 24th of November at it's all O2 Academies, isn't it, in Islington?
Yeah, we're playing. Apart from we're doing a gig at a lovely place called the Duke in Whitstable, which is a lovely venue and a proper sort of old school music venue with lovely people. And then we go up to Islington, and that one's looking really good. And then we're off up to Newcastle and Glasgow, and then we've got not one but 2 dates in the Midlands. We've got Birmingham and Leicester, and you know, which we were a little bit surprised about, because it is, if the truth be known, sometimes it's quite hard to get people out of their houses on a weekend. So I'm hoping that the Midlands will do themselves proud and come out and support us in Birmingham and Leicester. So you know, we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be really good, and we're going to be playing tunes from the obviously from Electric Blend and from the new EP, and you know, going to be at the top of the game. Dr. Damon, you know, and Matt, and just as a 3-piece, and we're going to go out and have a great time. So we want to see as many people as we can. We've got our tour-only EP, another little tactic that you've got to do. So we've got our CD version of the EP that we're going to be selling on the tour, and some lovely new T-shirts, and just come out and have a good night. It's not that expensive.
And it's at the Institute in Birmingham, which is formerly, for people that don't know, it was Digbeth Civic Hall. I actually watched Paul there after he'd finished with the Jam before the Style Council, when he got the Respond record label as Vince Toulouse, and the Questions and Tracy. Yeah, so
God, I remember. That was the same tour that we did. Dudley's, JB's at Dudley's.
Yeah.
Wow, see, I remember that. when I was playing drums, and so a bit of drums for the questions, and then Tracy was on the tour, and it's lovely. I'm still in touch with Tracy. Still speak to her now and then. She's a DJ in her own right down in deepest darkest Essex. But and Steve Sadelnik, I'm still in touch with Steve, and we took my kids to see Thor last week, which I don't think he could believe the price of the pick and mix at our local Odeon, but. It's lovely to sort of keep in touch with friends that have been sort of part of our life for so long, really.
And people will want to get in touch with the Family Silver. So all your social media outlets, what are they?
Oh, well, www.familysilver.co.uk, and we're on the usual Facebook, and we've got a really great guy called Steve Jewell who looks after our Facebook page, and we've got like a Family Silver fan page, and just come along and come and say hello, and come and support some good music.
James Burgess, legend man, is talking about you, Steve, and I totally agree. James plays the best drums too, Yamaha.
Oh yeah, absolutely beautiful. I'm really chuffed with my fantastic new relationship with Yamaha. We're 3 years now, but fantastic company to work with, and really enjoyed doing all my bits and bobs with them. So very lucky.
I've got to say as well, James Birch is a great young drummer as well, Steve. So check this guy out.
Definitely.
He's gets on them skins, and I'll tell you what, I watch the kid. He's very, very animated when he's playing the drums, and he's a top lad and a top drummer.
Lovely.
Well, Steve, can I thank you very much for your time, sir? It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll keep in touch, and I'll see you on the 16th in Birmingham.
Just to add a thanks to you guys for kind of keeping the torch going, and if there were more people with your enthusiasm, then I think that music for young British youth would be in a much more healthier state. So well done to you guys, and thank you.
Cheers, Steve. And if you want to do a show on the SRB radio, send us some, music that you like.
I'll do that. I'll do a little playlist for you.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we can do one once a month. Whitey's playlist on SRB radio.
Lovely. All right, matey.
God bless. Cheers, Steve.
All the best. Have a great day.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.